I got complacent and I got relaxed, got comfortable. And when you're playing a sport, you can't get comfortable.
Today on the show, we have former Arkansas Razorback and a current assistant coach with Alabama State University. Mardrakus Wade is up next. Welcome back to the show, everyone. And before we get into today's conversation, a quick reminder that the Fifth Quarter podcast is now available on Audible. Also, Michael is on vacation for the month of December, and we hope to have him back in January. We want both of us. We want to thank everyone out there. Each and every one of you has taken the time to comment, like, and share our posts. We so appreciate everyone's time and wonderful words of encouragement and insight into what you like about the show. And a huge thank you to everyone who's taken those 30 seconds to leave us a review on Apple. Those reviews really help our show and help us get found by others, and also let us know what you find interesting. Now, let's get into today's show. Today's guest is a retired professional basketball player born and raised in Memphis, Tennessee. He's currently an assistant men's basketball coach at Alabama State University. Welcome to the show, Mardrakus Wade.
Hey, thank you. Thank you so much for having me today. Just been a great opportunity just to be on here. I know it's a great show and great podcast, so I'm looking forward to it today.
Absolutely. We've tried to venture out and we started with Memphis players, obviously, and ventured out. And I'm trying to shake up the list a little bit. And I know you from when you were an assistant or on the staff at Memphis. So that's how I met you. So I reached out to you, and we had just played Alabama State. We'll get into that later. But anyway, great to have you on the show today. So, as I mentioned, you grew up in Memphis, Tennessee. So, tell me about, when did you start playing basketball?
Actually, it started just in a front yard and actually in the neighborhood. So I was one of those kids who had a basketball hoop, but at the time I wasn't really good. So a lot of the guys in the neighborhood used to come over to my place because I had a goal, but they never
Ah,
picked me. So it was always like, well, I got to the point where I was like, well, if y'all gonna come over and play basketball, y'all have to pick me at least, and this is my
right.
house. Yeah, you have to.
Sure.
And obviously, it was the older guys, and so I
What
made
can
them.
I wait a minute? Can I ask how old you were at that time?
At that time, I was anywhere between the ages of 10, maybe 11, 10, 11.
Okay. Okay.
So I was kind of getting up there a little bit for as age wise, for as when guys start to like kind of discover themselves and really try to figure out if they really like or love the game. And that's what ended up happening. They ended up picking me. And so I was playing with older guys. So eventually I started getting better because you're playing against better
Sure.
competition, older guys, they're stronger, they're taller. So you got to find out ways to finish over them or get around them. And so that's when things started to kind of I started to kind of expand my game a little bit more. And so that was the kind of like the turning point for me.
Do you Can you name some of the guys? Were there any that we are aware of, that we know?
At that time, it was just local guys. You probably
Just
don't know
local guys.
not too many of those guys. Probably one who's currently still playing, Ian Clark. He was in the neighborhood around the corner from me, who
Sure.
played. I was at Belmont, played with the Golden State Warriors, won a national championship with them, who's currently overseas in Australia right now. But yeah, so he was one of the guys I kind of grew up with. We played together in church league actually, and so but he was just always better than me. He was always taller, quicker than me, but I kind of stayed there, right there with him, but he just always had the edge on me a little bit just with his experience.
Sure, sure. And did you play any other sports?
Growing up, I actually did. So I played baseball, and I didn't like playing baseball, and I wish I would have just stuck with it because um, I was an outfielder. Kids at that age, they're not hitting
Mhm.
home runs. So you just put it out there, just twiddling your thumbs and,
Right.
daydreaming and all that stuff. And I was telling my parents, like, man, I don't want to play this baseball. This baseball is not for me. And then as time went on, I was like, man, I should stay with baseball. And then I also played football. I played football for a few years. I played wide receiver, and I really loved that. But it was an outdoor sport, and I was like, man, it's basketball indoor. I don't got time with this heat and getting out here these 2 days. I like this ain't for me. I want to be
Sure.
indoor. Um, Obviously, people know you because in basketball you're not wearing a helmet, so people know
Exactly.
your face and people can distinguish you walking throughout the hallways and all that stuff. So I always like that part about it. Being a basketball player, people just the recognition and people just recognizing you and knowing who you are.
Sure. You know, it's funny, Andre Turner, we had him on here and he loved baseball. He played and up until his senior year, he didn't know which way he was going to go.
Mhm.
And I found that quite interesting. So do you still follow baseball now at all?
Actually, I still do. So actually, I'm like from time to time, I turn it on. So I'm a Houston Astros guy, and
Yes. Oh my God. You're like the only other person.
so and so it was so fun because the older I got, I started venturing out. I started going to baseball games and Major League Baseball
Yeah.
games, and it's so funny. Now that I live in Montgomery, we have a minor league team here. I was kind of like in Memphis, got the Memphis Redbirds.
Yes. Yes.
Here we have the the Montgomery Biscuits. So,
Right.
and so I live downtown, and so their stadium is not too far from me, so I can walk there. So it's pretty awesome. I like it.
You know, it's funny. We're going to sidetrack just a moment about the baseball because I lived in Houston for 16 years and
Mm.
I hated baseball my entire life. Even broke up with a guy because he was a big baseball fan. Okay, I did.
Yeah.
And 2017, the fifth game of the World Series, Houston had been flooding, and I was forced to watch it, and I just fell in love that game. I finally understood like all the dynamics of everything. And it was yeah, and I'm still an Astros fan and people don't know that I used to live there. They're like, I don't understand why you're an Astros fan. But why are you an Astros fan?
To be you gonna laugh, but I actually just like the colors. I like the colors and logo.
Oh
Like
my God. You like
it,
orange? No.
I like the logo. I like that H with the star. Like and then their fans. Their fans are unbelievable. So
They are.
yeah, they're so every time I go to Houston and I get an opportunity to get out there, every time I go to like a local pub or
Right.
like a sports bar, they're in there and I'm telling you, they're like the most insane fans
They
ever. So
are.
their passion for the team makes me happy and I enjoy it. So I'm like, I'm rocking with these. I'm rocking with these guys because like their fan support, their people, they root for them hard. Like I like that. That's what I like about it. So they're diehards, and so they're
They
with my heart.
they are indeed. Okay, so we'll get off the baseball for a second. You know, most everybody, and when you told me you went to Hardgrave Military Academy, and that's in Virginia,
Yep, Chatham, Virginia. Yep.
Chatham, Virginia. Why did you go there the whole 4 years of high school?
No, I went there my senior year of high
Your
school.
senior year. Okay. And what made that what was your decision? Like when you were entering high school, you've been playing basketball for how many years? Like 4?
Yep, about 4 or 5 years going into my freshman year, ninth grade year of high school. Yep.
And what was the high school in Memphis?
That was Mitchell High School. I went to so the same school Andre Turner went to.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Um, so what was that decision to go to, because it's a prep school? What
Hmm.
was your decision to go to the prep school?
To be honest with you, I could have stayed at Mitchell my senior year, but I got to the point where I probably was being a little bit uncoachable. My first 2 years, I had my uncle who was really strict, Coach Jerry Johnson, rest in peace. But he had come from like a military background,
Mhm.
so he was strict. My uncle didn't play that. He was on time. You're gonna do this, and that's the end of it. It was no back
Right.
and forth with him. And so then he ended up leaving Mitchell, ended up going to Wooddale, and I decided I didn't want to leave because I had already made new friends. I was close with the teacher, the principal, the advisors, and so I was like, man, do I really just want to uproot myself and go
Sure.
to Wooddale? And it crushed me, and it crushed my uncle because he the one who kind of got me started. He kind of the one who kind of got that fire lit on me about just being competitive and doing the right things. You know what I'm saying, in the classroom, being a good student, and all those things. So that kind of hurt me. So we ended up bringing in kind of a younger coach, Sorrell Valentine, which he was a good coach, but I didn't like his philosophy for as his teaching skills because I felt like at the time they were kind of too advanced for some of the guys. Like I
Mhm.
got what he was trying to preach and teach, but I
Sure.
didn't think the other guys grasped it. And so we always had some dialogue. We always was going back and forth. And I knew that, man, I can't do this another year going to my senior year. I knew I wanted to get ready for college. I knew I wanted to be prepared. I wanted to be ready on both ends. And what I mean by both ends, academically and as a player.
So I
And
want to stop. I want to stop 1 second because I like what you say because a lot of our guests have not really thought about anything. They don't think about the studies really much. You know, they don't think about the education aspect. What was your thinking right then? You're a junior, sophomore,
Yep.
junior in high school.
Junior,
What
yep.
was your thinking about your career at that time?
At that time, I knew I wanted to go to a Power Five school. So I knew that only way I was gonna get into a Power Five school, my grades, you have to have grades, you have that ACT scores. So you
Right.
have to lock in academic. Like obviously you got to be a really good basketball player, but
Sure.
your academic has to be able to get you into that school, enrolling in school. And so, and I knew that
But
uh,
why a Power Five school?
because I just grew up, being in Memphis, growing up in Memphis, I have University of Memphis, you have Ole Miss, you have Tennessee,
Sure.
you have
Sure.
Arkansas, all those. Like Memphis to me is like a melting pot for schools. Everybody has either they went to some type of SEC school,
Sure.
I said
Exactly.
Ole Miss, Auburn, Alabama,
Right.
Mississippi State, Arkansas, Tennessee, Vanderbilt. So I grew up hearing people talk
Right.
about these schools, talk about these big schools, and so I knew I wanted to be at one of these big schools. And I used to grow up watching the SEC because they were just so much bigger, faster, stronger than all these other schools. And I like, God dang, like I want to be a big guard. As I always tell myself, big guard, I'm gonna be 6'4", 6'5". I'm gonna be this big guard. I'm gonna be playing the SEC. And so that always stuck out to me growing up as a kid that I just wanted to be a big guard. And so, and I knew if I wanted to get into one of those schools that my academic had to be up to par. And so I spent a lot of time with my academic advisor, making sure that I was meeting all my core curriculums and everything, all of my grades and everything was right. And so like I said, I didn't want to uproot myself, go to
Sure.
Wood, and I don't know these teachers, I don't know the advisors, and I didn't want to go through all that
Right.
stuff. And so that's what made me make a decision on going to Hargrave. I knew it was going to be competitive on the court. I knew it was going to be good for me, just discipline and
How
and
did you how did you hear about Hargrave? Because
so
when I hear the name, obviously I didn't play basketball, but when I hear the name, I immediately think it's a military academy. It's not a prep school, right? Or not a
right,
prep school for basketball.
right.
And like what at that time, what made you zone in on them?
So gonna sidetrack a little bit. Going
That's
into
fine. That's
yeah,
fine.
so going into my senior year that summer, I played AAU ball with Hoop City, which was
Got it.
called at the time, we wasn't Hoop City yet. We was M33M. And so we played with, I had a kid on my team named David Chadwick. He was out of Texas, and he used to drive up to Memphis and play with us. His dad, Chadwick, played at North Carolina, won a national championship, played with Michael Jordan.
Oh,
So his dad was telling me, like, yeah, you know what, man, David, he was a senior and he didn't get the looks he wanted. So he's he's gonna go to prep school. And so we're like, okay, what prep school he's going to? And he told me he was going to Hargrave Military Academy. He's like, man, it's a great school, great for just academics, great for basketball. They get a lot of good recruiting. A lot of guys go Division I, high Division I out of there. And so
right.
I started doing my research. I'm like, well, damn, David's going to this big time prep school. Let me look into it.
Right.
I started looking into it, and then I saw all the names, all the guys that came through there and
Mhm.
went to play major Division I basketball. Some of those guys went on to play in the NBA and so forth and so on. And then come to find out that the head coach at the time, Kevin Keats, who is now the head coach at North Carolina State, he used to come to our games, and I didn't have no clue. He just used to sit there because he was watching David.
Oh, yeah.
And so I kind of stuck out to him. And once he found out that, because he thought originally that I was going back to Mitchell. So he didn't really try to
Sure.
tamper with me and trying to get me. He was just pretty much worried about David, just kind of seeing him and, just watching his progress throughout the summer. And then once he found out that I wanted to go to prep school, he immediately jumped on me like, well, shoot, Wade's going to, he want to try to go to prep school. Like, he needs to come here. And so
Right.
that's when it all started off me going to Hargrave.
So, what do you think the advantage, like how was that senior year there? What were some of the what was the hardest thing
The
to
hardest
that challenged you?
I was the biggest thing being away from home, and then probably the discipline, like
Oh,
that,
yeah.
the
Because
discipline.
the military academy aspect does play a part. Yes.
Oh my gosh, it played a huge part. It played a huge part because you hearing it as a kid, like military school,
So
ain't
did it make you think your uncle was like a teddy bear then?
pretty much yes. After, yeah, I was like, oh, this ain't nothing. And my uncles always tell me like, I'm gonna coach you so hard that when someone try to coach hard, it's gonna be nothing. It's gonna be easy
Right.
because he's always beyond me. And I got there, and I mean, it was military. It was
Yeah,
military.
it
Like
was
you got there,
military.
had to turn in your phones. You couldn't have your cell phone for the first 2.5 months. And then when those 2.5 months were up, you couldn't get your phone back until you kind of like your academics apart. You didn't get in no trouble. You had to pretty
Right.
much have a clean slate to get your phone back.
You earn your
Earned it.
privileges.
Right. You earned your privilege to get your phone back. And so the only time you kind of communicate with your parents, we had a payphone. People didn't know we had a payphone in the school. It was I never had
Okay,
seen.
there are kids out there that are listening that are probably like, "What's a payphone?"
Yeah, it was a payphone. And so like, like you go to like the prison, like you wait in
Mhm.
line. It's like in my time, like you got 5 minutes on the phone. Like you got a
Right.
phone, person get on the phone. That's how it was. It was so
Wow.
bizarre to me at the time. I was like, payphone, you know what I mean? And so you get there, you have to be clean shaved, no facial hair. You had to dress up every morning. Wake up time was that the alarm goes off at 6 a.m. every morning. You had
Right.
to be fully dressed, clean shaved, bed had to be made, fully dressed in your B1s on this downstairs on this street called Company Street.
What's a B1 for those that out there don't
So
know?
B1s is pretty much like a military uniform.
Yeah.
So it's almost like slack attire, button-up collar shirt with your name tag on it.
Right.
And everyone had the black shoes on, black, and it had to be shine. Everything had to be tucked in. You come out to Company Street before 6:15. At 6:15, the flag is raised. You got to salute the flag as they're playing the national anthem. And then once that's over, flag comes down. Everyone march around Company Street. You march to Chow Hall. Once you get to Chow Hall, Chow Hall is the cafeteria.
Right.
Get in the cafeteria, they say the prayer, everyone sits down at the same time, and then you go in order which with your company, which was that golf company, Alpha company,
Right.
whatever the case may be.
Very much military.
Yeah,
Very
very
much.
much there, back. So very much military. And so we did that every day, Monday through Sunday, wasn't it? Sunday you slept in a little bit longer. I think it was an hour more, but every day, 6 a.m.
So did they have any other sports there besides basketball?
Yes, we had football there, we had lacrosse there, we had rifling, and we had soccer.
Interesting. You know, what do you think was the best part of that experience?
The best part, obviously, was I would say playing with a lot of great guys and being coached well by great staff. But I would say the friendships along the
Mm.
way and the discipline, and it helped me become a better person. It helped me become a better man. Just the things that I learned through that process. Just because when we were there, we all had duties, right? We all had
Sure.
someone in charge of something. So either
Mhm.
in charge of cleaning the barracks, whether you cleaned the hallways, you cleaned the restroom, you cleaned the shower, you took out the trash, you did something. And so that taught me, even though my parents instilled in me to, always clean up and do the
Sure.
right thing, throw your trash away. On this level is a big level because now it's not just your room. Now you have to be in charge of. Now you're in
Right.
charge of a hallway. You're in charge of
And
the
it's like a job. It
yeah,
really
pretty much.
is. You know,
Exactly.
and one thing that over the course I think you're episode 28, over the course of a lot of the stories and from the guests, working in high school
Mhm.
has been a huge help in helping them after they stop their competitive career.
Right.
From what I've noticed, not that they've said it, but just me picking up on things, that's been a key, something that stuck out to me. For those kids out there that are like, I can't deal with that type of atmosphere, like that's too strict.
Yeah.
And I will say something that kids don't think they want structure, but they need structure.
Right.
They do need structure.
Uh-huh.
What would you tell a kid out there that was looking to go to a prep school like that?
I would recommend it highly. I think just from a standpoint of you getting better, the discipline, the friendships you meet along the way, it just helps groom you to a better person. I mean, the stuff that was instilled in me during that time, I still do it to today.
Yeah.
You know, My clothes, like if you go in my closet, my clothes is lined up from lightest to darkest, from short to long sleeve. I make my bed up every morning.
Right.
I make sure the trash is taken out. Don't just leave it on the curb. Like I go take it out and
Right.
I bring it back. Like it's just in me now. It's a habit now. And so those are good habits you want
They
to form
are.
throughout life as a person. And I would highly recommend it. I think it's good for me. It starts off rocky because you're not used to it. I mean, you're not used to someone being on you all day, every day. And I'll tell people, like our TAC officers and people, they lived and stayed on campus with us as well. So
Right.
it wasn't like where they had to go all the way home or they was there with us
Right.
as well. And so
Right.
you had to use always on your toes because someone's always watching. And
Mm-hmm.
so you didn't have room for error, so you didn't have room for a lot of slip ups without people noticing or seeing it. And the other part is that when you're around it so much, you start holding each other accountable. You know what I'm saying? People start, hey, you can't be doing that. Hey, tighten it up. Hey, your shirt's out in the back. You know what I mean? So you form this kind of community of being aware and people just being discipline each other in a manner where you respected them. You're like, oh yeah, dang, my bad. I missed
And
that.
I also think that it brings you together more as a group, which
Right.
I think, you talked about you hold each other accountable, which I think is missing from
Mm-hmm.
today's high school players and college players. I think that especially jumping from school to school to school,
Mm-hmm.
not only do they lack that cohesive group feeling, but I don't think they're necessarily about, and I'm not talking about one school in particular, I'm talking about all the schools, just things that
Right.
I noticed. I think that, especially in high school, I think they're missing that group component and that holding each other accountable and working as a unit, which is
Yeah.
what the military teaches you is to work as a unit.
Right. Absolutely. And
So, um, real quick about that. So, Hargrave is obviously much stricter than say IMG Academy and those type of things because they're not based on that military aspect.
right. Correct.
Um, so so I want to ask this, and I don't know if you're going to answer it, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Did you call your mom at any time those first few months and go, "Mom, I can't take this. I want to come home"?
Yep. I did. I did. I
Because
called. I
go ahead.
called and my mom, she like, you got this. You can do it. You can get through anything in life. That's what I instilled in you. You're tough. And now she just got all me these words of affirmation. And then on the other flip side of that, my TAC officer and my coaches were the same way. Like, man, this is nothing. Think about it. You're gonna be doing this for what, 4 or 5 months. You're gonna be out
Right.
here at a new school. Like, you weather the storm. Like, as you're going through this, grow through this. And that was the thing. As you're going through this, grow through it, get better. And so that always stuck in the back of my head. It's like, all right, it's gonna be some ups and downs. It's gonna be some rough days, but just grow through this, like learn through this process and get better.
Right.
Not just as a basketball player, but as a person as well, because it takes you, it can take you kind of to the edge a little bit. Just holidays, you're there, just being on campus, being in your room. We didn't have TVs in our room. So a lot of times if I want to watch sports, it was either my laptop or I heard it the next day from a coach or someone said, you know what I mean? So that part was kind of tough. But once we started playing and I started getting comfortable and I started to kind of don't look at it as punishment or as someone just being down on me, I kind of looked at it like I was just getting better and it was just another stepping stone towards my
Sure.
goal, what I
Sure.
want to be.
Sure.
And once I started looking at it like that, and I knew that I didn't have a long time there, stuff just started flying by, and,
Right.
and I didn't think of it as that much. I kind of just looked at it as like it was just who I was. It was a part of me.
Sure. And everybody there, they want you to succeed.
Right. Absolutely.
That's the goal that everybody wants is for you to succeed. Which is a little bit different than the actual military. They want to push everybody out that can't make it.
Exactly.
So there is a different goal there. So let's talk about when did you start getting recruited by colleges?
Um, Probably after my freshman year of high school, so my ninth grade year going to my 10th grade year.
Right.
Yeah, at the time, like I said, my uncle, My uncle knew what he was doing, man. He threw me in the fire early. So at the time, it was two freshmen in the city of Memphis at that time that
Which
were,
was what year? What year?
so that would have been 2006,
Okay.
2006. And so at that time, it was two major freshmen that would start on varsity at the time. There was me at Mitchell High School, and then at White Station, it was Joe Jackson, who also played at the University of Memphis.
Right.
So and we played AAU ball together as well. So we were the only two freshmen started on varsity. And so that was a big thing. Like, you got a freshman starting on varsity in Memphis.
Right.
And that was big time. And obviously Joe, he ran the city at that time. He was so good. You talking about quick, athletic as a ninth grader. He was really good. And me, I was just kind of grooming into it. I was good enough to start as a freshman, but I was just starting to kind of like I pull away a little bit. I was starting trying to make that
Sure.
that leap. And so after my ninth grade year, we made it to state, took my team to state. We were state runner up, and then immediately things started to come. They started the phone calls, the letters, everything coming to AU games, all that. And so that was a turning point for me.
And what your senior year when you were at Hargrave? So
Mhm.
who were the schools that were recruiting you then?
Then so here's the thing. So by this time, before I got to Hargrave, I had already made a decision where I was going to go to school. So I committed my junior year.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. So because I didn't want to deal with, I got tired of the phone calls,
Oh.
all the visits. Like, I'm like, I want my senior year. I just wanted to be basketball. That's it. I
Right.
don't want to worry about school, where I'm gonna go to school. I just want to know where I'm going to school. Just focus on basketball and academics at this point.
Sure.
So that's what I did. So after that July period for basketball, I came home from Vegas. I told my mom, like, yeah, I'm done. Like, this is it. Like, I'm going to the University of Arkansas. Like, that's it. At the time, head coach was John Pelfrey, and one of the assistant, Tommy Ostrom, he recruited his tail off. He talked about recruited me. And so after I took a visit to the campus, I went to the elite camp. I got out there in Fayetteville, and I said, I didn't tell them at that time, but when I got there and I walked around campus and stuff, I told myself, I said, yeah, this is it. I'm sold. I'm sold up here with Woo Pig Suey. I'm sold up here. And so I played the game as long as I could to hold out just in case something else came that I may have been interested in, whatever. But in my heart,
Did you have a second pick?
yep, I did have a second pick. If I wasn't gonna go to Arkansas, I was gonna go to Ole Miss. I was gonna go down there with Andy Kennedy. So I was gonna be a rebel if I wasn't
I
hard.
can handle Arkansas. It's the Ole Miss I can't handle. No, no. Or the Tennessee.
Not the orange.
I
Yep.
know. So the very first time when because we did Michael's interview first,
Uh-huh.
and he was like, "Yeah, I don't know if he actually committed to Tennessee first. I think he did." And I was like, "Oh my God, you committed to Tennessee? No way."
Yep.
And there were a couple other people. I was like, "No, I don't, yeah." Okay, so your senior year, you just think basketball and academics, and I like the fact that you're really focused on the academics.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Because
at that time, did you have any thought about what you're going to do after college? You're still in high school.
nope, none. Because growing up as a kid, you've been conditioned and pumped in your head that you're gonna be a good basketball player. You're gonna be a star. Like, you're gonna go to Division 1. You're gonna make a lot of money. Like, that's what you've been told. That's what you hear as
Wow.
a kid growing up. You in middle school, you in sixth, seventh grade, you're up and coming basketball player. You're a star player, and your coaches and people around you tell man, you're so good, man. You're gonna be you're gonna make a lot of money. You're going to the NBA, make a lot of money. So that's what's in your head. Like, nothing like I'm by the time I'm 23, 24, 25, I'm gonna be a millionaire. Like, I'm like, this game is gonna take me so far. I'm gonna make so much money. Like, I'm gonna
Right.
put so much time and just dedicate my whole life to this game. Pretty much to say. And so that's where kind of like I was um
Do you
in
think
that
do
mind
you,
frame.
do you think that's unfair of because I mean, let's be honest, there are a lot of parents out there that tell their
Mhm.
kids the
Yep.
same thing over whether they're good or not. Do you
Right.
think that's fair of people to put that much expectations on all of you kids?
Yeah, because it's good to kind of talk about it, but I think to a certain extent, you know what I mean? I always have a plan B, C, D, E.
Which a lot of people
Like you
don't.
don't know, you just never know in today's
No.
world, and things happen, and I don't wish any bad on anybody, but
Right.
things come up and things happen. You might not reach this goal. You know what I mean? You
Right.
might not really close, you might not reach this goal. You might have another one. Try to get and you might have another one. And so
Sure.
you always have to have those windows and opportunities uh, for yourself to grow and expand and try something different. And always have a different um, task or goal you want to do or accomplish in life,
Yes.
not just
Yes.
one. And so
Yes.
that's one of my biggest, probably growing up. I wish I would have had my mindset on X, Y, and Z or A, B, C, D, E, F, just in case this one didn't fall through.
A lot of the guys, I remember a conversation with Russell Copeland, and he talked about that. And he said with his kids now, sports cannot be their first love. He wants something else. They all have to have something else.
Yep.
And it's interesting that, all of those athletes, what they teach their kids now is the opposite,
Yep.
and it's good to see that what they went through, they've learned from it
Right.
and they're doing it differently.
Yep.
And the expectations are not as great on the kids. William Bedford, he said that he didn't start playing basketball until he was like a freshman in high school.
Mm-hmm.
And he hated it. He hated it because he was so tall and everybody was saying, you need to play basketball. And he hated being told that and he resisted it.
Yep.
And that was just, an interesting conversation as well. But yeah, the expectations of, because there's no guarantee you're going to get a contract. There's no guarantee you could be hurt the next day on a court or
Right.
in the street or anything.
Right.
So, so did you have any thoughts as to academically what you wanted to do?
Not really. I knew what I kind of wanted to major in just growing up. So I was a big growing up. And then this is crazy, but I was in Memphis, I love my city, but we know my city has to do better. But it was the first 48.
Yes.
So they used to show those episodes. I used to watch those episodes, and I was big into like forensic and like how it happened. Like, all right, if they can go in a room and how the blood is splattered on the wall, how the coffee table is flipped over, they can tell you like what happened. They came in, he pushed him over, the coffee table fell. That's why the blood splattered on the wall. I was really intrigued by that. So I was big on the forensic side of like murders and stuff like that. So my major was criminal justice because like
I saw that and I was interested because that's not a normal, and I'm sitting there putting a stereotype on basketball players or football players or any athlete, but athletics makes you you have to focus on the athletic part, and it's hard to have a harder major.
Yeah, yes, correct. Yep.
It really is. And so I was intrigued by that. So you watched the first 48, you love forensic. By the way, my best friend is a forensic psychiatrist. So
Wow.
she actually teaches blood splattering classes and all that stuff.
Wow.
Um, so you get there. Was it hard to do that type of curriculum in college and play sports?
It was because it's just tedious, it's long hours. So
Mhm.
paper, you really have to, there's nothing that I can just you can just look at and
Right.
just done with it. You have to spend time with it and that. And like I struggled. And so even though we're talking about the academic part,
Mhm.
reason why I'm really hard on myself a little bit with academic because I struggled growing up as a kid. I didn't read well. I didn't speak well. And that bothered me because when the teacher used to call on me in class, I stuttered a little bit.
Right.
I pronounced words well. And so growing up, I just tried to horn in on like, make sure I speak properly, make sure my academics is good, just in case my teacher asks me something in class. I don't want to be that guy that don't know the answer or
Right.
I fumble a question or an answer. And so that always used to be in the back of my mind, like, don't be that, don't be that guy. Like, don't be that
Right.
guy. Don't know. And so that was like one of the biggest things. So that's why I'm really, really big on my academic part.
So what did you want to do with that major? Because and another interesting part is, what was your minor?
Yep. And
I,
so
I know what it is, but what was your minor?
so it was playwriting and drama.
And
So
so forensics and playwriting and drama, how did that, what made that combination?
well, I took a lot of my like in my major, I was criminal justice, but then I took some other like kind of other curricular classes that kind of like playwriting and all that stuff and acting classes. And then so
But
one
why? What made you take them?
I was intrigued, to be honest with you. And so I was always kind of like a class clown. So it was
Okay.
not much for me to get up there and be goofy or say something funny, because as a basketball player, we're used to talking. You're going to talk on the court, we talk in the classroom. And so
I'm
it's
going to tell you though, you stick a camera in front of a basketball player and they're like, no, 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 can't do that right now.
exactly. And so it was just one of those elective classes that you could take. And so
Sure.
I took one, I took two, then I took another one. Then my advisor was like, you know what? You know, if you take this, and that, you know, you get a minor in this. I'm like, I get a minor in playwriting and drama. I was like, might as well. It sounds good. No, it looks good. And so, and I did it. And what happened was I fell in love with it. So I started taking acting, doing plays and stuff in school. And people don't know that, but I had to like study scripts and stuff. Like
Sure.
people come over to my apartment at the time. We out here acting out plays and make sure that when we get up there and do our impromptu speeches, we were all on point. Everything like I was like dedicated to it. I was like all about it. And so I used to always say like, man, hopefully one day someone read one of my plays that I wrote, and they wanted me to do a movie scene or something. I get one of these like good actors, you know what I mean? Like one of these Fast and the Furious movies, you know, they call me up. I'm like, oh, sure. I'm like, oh
So
man.
I'm going to give you some career coaching advice. I see you writing a script about forensics.
Okay. Yeah.
Just saying, because you already have the background for that. But you know, those are good things to have because you think about the playwright and the drama, writing and being in front of a camera,
Yeah.
interviews, all kinds of things. And you look at athletes after they finish their careers. You know, a lot of them go into broadcasting, a lot of them do things like that, but they don't have necessarily that background in how to do it well
Right.
or have had any experience. So that puts you ahead of the curve right there. What was it like playing basketball at Arkansas?
I loved it. It's like they tell you, like the best times of your life is in college.
It is colleges, yes.
Yeah, you have no worries. No, you don't have no bills. You just school's paid for. Only thing you're doing is playing basketball and going to class and having a good time with your friends and teammates. Like that was it. And then so I love Bud Walton Arena. I love those fans, those diehard fans. Just hearing that Woo Pig Sue running out of that tunnel with that uniform on. It's nothing like it. It's nothing like it. And then just the city itself is just so friendly. The relationships I built with so many people there,
Sure.
I have to today, it's just been everything to me. And so,
That's the same way for me. College is like the foundational
yeah,
aspect of life. You know, I still have a few friends from high school, but I'm not as close to the majority of them as I am with my college friends.
right, correct. Same
Yeah.
with me. Same with me. Yep.
So you're playing college ball there. You've got your major and your minor. What are you thinking about after school? Like, what are you thinking about after graduation?
Going pro.
Going pro. And that's all you were thinking about.
That's all I was thinking about. Going pro, NBA, just working, training, um, trying to figure out who's gonna be my agent. All like this, all basketball right now. Nothing else in the world matters. Like, how do I get to the next level?
Right.
And so that was the biggest focal point for me. Is just
What were the years that you were in Arkansas, just so that everybody kind of has a frame in mind?
yep. So I was there 2010 through 2014.
Okay. Okay. So that last year of school, did you graduate at that time or did you come back and graduate?
No, I graduated at that time.
Okay.
Yep.
Which is also not the norm,
Mhm.
really,
Right.
with athletes. So that senior year, what was your thought process then? Were you being scouted by by NBA players, or not NBA players, by NBA scouts? Um, what were you looking at going into the draft?
So going into my senior, I just had a okay year, decent year. So I knew it was gonna be hard for me to get drafted. So the next part I was thinking of, I gotta try to make a summer league team, at least to get into or have a few workouts so they can see me and maybe to just kind of look at me, evaluate me. And so like that was next, like, well, I didn't have the year I wanted to have, but I'm still in my head, I'm good enough to play at that next level, even
Right.
though I didn't have the year I wanted. And so I was just focusing on just getting stronger, making sure that just a lot of repetition in the gym. I shot, whatever case, free throws, all the little aspects that I needed, my agility, quicker, faster, stronger, that everything was kind of pretty much just up to par. And so that's was like my focal point going into like that year after the season was over with.
Do you feel like you should have left earlier and tried the NBA maybe your junior year or sophomore year?
If I was gonna do it, it's gonna be my sophomore year. My sophomore year was my best year in college. And so at that time, I thought I still had more. I like, even though this was my best year, I just knew for sure my junior year was going to be even better just because of
Right.
my sophomore year. And that's what, like I said, when you're a kid, you don't fully think things out. You just kind of
Sure.
go. Yep. And so that's what I was thinking. Like, yeah, I really had a good sophomore year. Could I win? Maybe, but I just know like my junior is going to be the year.
Because you're
And
gambling. It's almost like you're gambling
gambling, yeah, exactly.
to
So I
get
was,
better.
yep. And that's what I did. I was like, well, the time I spent in the gym this past summer, I spent a little bit more, honing in on my craft and whatnot. And so I'll be better. And so, and like you said, you just bank on yourself. You're like you're betting on yourself.
Right.
And what happened was you can do too good, and you think like, I probably don't really have to spend as much time in the gym this time. Way you was in there a lot.
Right. Right.
A lot of late. You don't have to do that this summer. You don't have to just kind of
Is that what you did?
exactly what I did. Exactly what I did. I got complacent. That's what happened. I got complacent. It
And
was
I
two
just want to
things
say
in one.
it takes a big person to admit that, because another thing is athletes, male or female, they also have, they're tied to their reputation and their ego a little bit, and it takes a big person to say that.
Yeah. And so that's exactly what happened. I got complacent. I fell in love with the everyone, the applause and the accolades. That's what happened. I fell in love with it. And I go somewhere to eat, people know you. You don't pay for that. No, you good.
Right.
That's what happened. I got complacent and I got relaxed, got comfortable. And when you're playing a sport, you can't get comfortable.
When
And
did you wake up from that aspect? Like, when did it click in your head? Oh crap.
man, it took some time. It took some time for me to distinguish that, because like I said, I didn't know that, but me
Well,
looking back,
especially since you just said that sophomore year was your best year and you didn't have a great senior year. So obviously it took you a couple of years to realize that.
that didn't hit me until going into my senior year. Like, wait, you got complacent. You fell in love with the applause. Like you got it. That's what it was. I fell in love with the applause, and I didn't, and I didn't stay down and horn down on the little things that got me to where I was at. The
You know,
discipline.
that's really interesting, because I think today, high school, college kids overall are more about the social media likes, which
Yep.
is really the applause and the
Applause.
accolades.
Exactly what
Yeah,
it is.
exactly. And
Absolutely.
they play to get those likes instead of playing to win.
Yep. Yep.
So yeah. So let's talk about, you wake up from it, you start playing, really you start working out, you start really honing in, and do you go into the draft?
So no, I don't. So I don't go into the draft. So actually, I kind of like started from the bottom. I had to start back from the bottom, because now I have to give myself go back into like that discipline mode. Like, don't be out all
Right.
night. Now,
Right.
early, and you got to be on it. Like, this is make or break you right here. And so that's what I did. I just kind of went to this almost like into like this rabbit hole. Like I went back into like, so I had this alter ego, and like people,
Like Beyonce.
yeah, or Beyonce, or whoever, like, or a lot of these characters, Marvel characters, like they have like these
Right.
characters they go into. And so I just went to, I like to call it like the Dark Knight. I just went to this different character. And then so I just locked in on like just everything, just waking up, drinking my water, spending more reps in the gym, just everything. And so I had to work my way. So I didn't make the Grizzlies team, but I made their G League team which is
Okay.
their team right under. So, like I said, I had to start from the bottom. So then I started kind of get back to my old ways, my old self, and I started really. And then when I did that, I started having more fun with us. I started getting back into like the love of the game and everything
Right.
aspects of it. And then that's when I knew like how to channel my energy towards the game a little bit more, and don't fall in love with the outside stuff, the
Right.
noise and the people and all that stuff. Just lock into just the game, your players, the people that are around you, the organization, and just kind of just focus in on those little things. And that's what kind of got me over the hump a little bit.
So, what did you do after you were on the G League for the Grizzlies? What was your career like after that?
And that's when it started to go uphill. And obviously had 3 good years, 2 years with the Our Energy, another year with the Greensboro Swarm, and then I went overseas and played. And so the things I the things I did in college kind of helped me mature as a young adult.
Sure.
And because now I know, all right, wait, can't be complacent. You got to
Right.
be strict discipline and all those things. And so that kind of channeled my career forward a little bit for me. And so, like I said, I tell people all the times, I don't look at wins and losses. I just wins and learns. I didn't,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
I didn't lose anything. I
That's
learned
right.
from my mistakes.
That's
I
right.
learned from my past, and so I just got better. So life is about, the biggest teacher in life is experience. There's no way around it.
Sure it is. And I think that you learn more from those learns than
Yep.
you do from the wins,
Right. Absolutely.
you
Absolutely.
know. So where did you play overseas?
So I played in Germany. And so I played in Nuremberg, Germany, which I loved it. Had a great coach, Coach Ralph, and the city was just unbelievable. It was so good to get outside of the norm, be around
Hmm.
different people, different cultures from different backgrounds, different walks of life, and just to kind of hear and be around their upbringing and how they.
Isn't it fascinating? It's
It's so
really fascinating.
fascinating because Americans, we're so spoiled. We're
We
so
are.
spoiled. We just like you go over there and they have a little bit of nothing, but they think it's everything to them. It's everything to them. Like, but dang, no man, if I would have gave this back to someone back at home, they would look at me like, what is this? Or like what I did was nothing. So it was just so very interesting for me to be around those people and just to see the joy, just a little like conversation and everything just means so much. Like
It does.
coffee meant so much in the morning just to be able to speak. Everyone spoke. Like it was just a good feeling to walk down the street and everyone spoke versus I'm walking down the street, I got my head down in my phone and this person just don't have no care in the world, just doing whatever they do. But to walk past people and you make eye contact and speak, hey, how you doing? And keep moving, or to hug someone, like
Sure.
that's not the norm here. And so it was different. It was different. And I liked it.
It's interesting because I did my student teaching in Germany,
All right.
and I was over there in 1998, and had just been 10 years since the wall came down. So I was south of Berlin in
Yep.
what had been communist Germany. So, it's interesting. My experience was a little bit different from yours. Obviously, yours was almost 10 years later.
Yep.
But you know, it was so communism was so fresh over there that, no one would make eye contact with us. We were the Americans, but they wanted to listen to us speak American English because
Hmm.
they only learned British English.
Got you. Yep.
And so they wanted us to talk about anything at that time. But it is such a fascinating, just, immersing yourself in another culture and just overseas, the history is thousands of years old. Like their buildings, thousands of years
Yes.
old, which
All
you
that
don't
crazy
have
stuff.
over here.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
that's crazy. It's just really crazy. So let's, I don't want to rush this part, but when did your fifth quarter start? Was it a slow process? Was it you woke up one morning and the decision was made for you, or you made it for yourself? Like, when did you decide to end your competitive career?
Um, I knew it was coming to an end after my third year. Third year, with the Swarm. when I was in Greensboro Swarm and I was going overseas the next year, coming home that summer. So people don't know this, but when I used to come home in the summertime, because obviously, when you're playing overseas, you're there for anywhere between 8 to 10 months playing.
Right.
You're gone. So you ever have a small window when you come back home. It's normally that June, July kind of period where you come home for those 2 months to train and whatnot. But during those 2 months, I trained, but also I ran a basketball camp, a youth basketball camp,
Right.
Monday through Thursday, which was with Hoop City. And so I had the opportunity to be around kids all day from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. And so what I learned through that process, how much I fell in love with kids getting better and seeing the process of it.
Right.
So I have a kid come at the beginning of June and then the end of July, how much better he's got. Or I hear these stories come back. Coach Way, I was doing those drills we did in camp, and like, I'm just so much better. I get these emails or I get these phone calls from these parents. Hey, such and such really love camp. We're gonna bring them back next week. Hey, such and such really enjoyed that drill. Hey, can you teach? Can you come by and show them this? And that's the part that I really started to like. The coaching part start to kind of build and go. I'm like, dude, I love this. I love this stuff right here. Like the seeing the looks on those kids' eyes. The first 2 weeks they're frustrated, can't do it, throwing a temper tantrum, and then you impatient and walking through, and you just
right.
And then they get it, and it's like, good job. Like you didn't
Right.
quit, you didn't give up. And so that's what it started. And so I started kind of like looking around, like how can I get into this college game? And obviously we know how hard it is without no experience to get into college basketball. So I knew like if I want to get into college basketball, first of all, I gotta go back to school, which once I graduated from Arkansas, I told myself, this is crazy. I said, I ain't never going back to school. Like I'm done with school, I'm never going back to school. And here I was going back to school.
Right.
And so trying to fix my mindset on going back to school, doing papers, really locking in, that was, oh my God, you talking
That's
about
hard. It's hard after you've been out.
after you've been out for so long and the curriculum is different now, the
Yeah.
layout is different. It's like, I'm like, oh my gosh, like what have I got myself into? My drug, it really took a really big bite out of this apple. But I learned to be patient and to learn to just immerse myself in uncomfortable situations, how to be comfortable in
Right.
uncomfortable situations. And
Which I
that's what
think is important. It's
Yep.
important. So you started at Memphis on your master's, which is in
Sports commerce.
sports commerce, and it was in 2019, correct? When you started?
Correct. Uh-huh.
Okay. Did you start your master's before you joined the Tigers team, or did you?
Nope. As I started coming into that fall and that August, I started taking courses.
Okay. And then how did the position with the Memphis staff come about?
So it all came about. So I knew that I wanted to get into coaching. So one of my closest friends was already on the staff, which is Mike Miller. And we was talking. So we hang out when I was back. And so we hang out every day just because I had his sons, Merrick and Mason, all of them, they're on my AU program. And I coached them, I trained them. And so I'm over there every day. I pretty much live there. Sure.
Right.
Yeah. And so I knew he was with the Tigers. And so I asked him, like, man, how can I join staff? He's like, man, I can put in a word for you with P, which they call him Penny P. I put in a word with P, whatever. And so I had Coach Hardaway's number anyway, just because in the summertime he used to always want to play pickup. And so or at his gym. And so he was always, all the guys that play college, he always want some good competition. So he's always play, get up and down, whatnot. So I called him one night and he was in Atlanta. He was at a Nike meeting. And I told him what I wanted to do. He's like, man, I'd love to have you, man. I think you'd be great for the guys to get out there and help them, just to be around it. Man, I think it'd be big time. And so he's like, I'm gonna call you sometime tonight. And this was like early. And one thing about Coach Holloway, he says he's gonna do something, he's gonna do it.
Yeah.
So he's like, yeah, I'm in Atlanta right now. I'm gonna hit you up later. So it's like 9 o'clock, I don't get a call. Like 10 o'clock, I don't get a call. Here comes 12 o'clock. Hey man, I'm sorry about that, man. It's been hectic. Man, I'm getting on the plane right now. I'm going home. Like, yeah, like, man, let's chop it up tomorrow. And like, we'll figure this thing out, man. But I'd love to have you. And we talked for a long time. And I mean, I was blessed and grateful for the opportunity, man. He gave me an opportunity, man, that a lot of guys don't get, and he
Sure.
opened up that window for me,
Sure.
and so man, I'm very grateful for him for allowing me to be on that staff because I learned so much. People don't understand just being around that day to day, every day with that
Right.
staff and those guys, like the knowledge I learned in 1 year, it probably take guys 5 to 8 years.
Sure.
You think you have Coach Penny Hardaway, legendary NBA player, at one point was the greatest player in the NBA with Michael
Right.
Jordan. You had Mike Miller, two-time NBA champ. Was it two or maybe two? I'm sure two for sure, maybe three. I'm not. Who also Rookie of the Year, six-man award. Cody Topper, NBA skill development, coached in the NBA. One of his biggest players was Devin Booker.
Mm-hmm.
You have these three guys in an office together. You talking about the stuff they come up with, the things they say is unreal. I'm telling you, I mean, it's a story every day. On top of Tony Matlock, who's
Yes.
now.
Yes.
So who's been coaching at that point? He's been coached for 27 years. At that time, it was 25, 24. So the knowledge of recruiting, the ins and out, he kind of like the mold guy to keep all these other guys because he's been around the college game for so long.
Right.
So he's seen everything from the recruiting, from academics, how you get kids, all of that he's seen.
Right.
So he's kind of merging that in with all these NBA guys and you talking about some stories and you talk knowledge. I mean, it was great. It was hard, it was long, but at the end of the day, we all got better. And it was just a great time. It was a great year just to be around those guys. And like I said, just to be a sponge and to
Right.
soak up knowledge of the game um, and to be a kind of a helping force to help mold those guys that we were coaching and training. It was unbelievable. It was real, just the love of the game and the love of the athletes and those guys, just make sure they had a great time and that they learned and they got better, and we did. And that was the beauty in it. It was the beauty was really in the hard part. You know, it's always the journey.
Exactly.
It's
Exactly.
always a journey. It's not so much about the destination. The destination gonna be what it's gonna
That
be.
is exactly right. That's what I tell people all the time. It's the
It's gonna be
journey.
what
That's where you're successful is the journey. It's not
man,
getting to the end point.
absolutely. It's not about the end result. It's the journey. So that part, man, I really kind of I fell in love with it. I fell in love with it. I fell in love with the day-to-day
Right.
stuff. Just the getting up early, the late nights, the film watching, the breaking down, the just being around those guys, hearing their stories, and just that's the part. That's what you fall in love with. And so I
You
try
were
to
so you started in with the staff in the fall of 2019.
uh-huh. Yep.
So you were there during the pandemic.
Right. Correct. Yep.
And you were there when we won the NIT championship.
Correct. Yep.
Um, so how long were you there? 2 years or 1 year?
2 years.
2 years. That's what I thought.
Yep.
Because I met you the second year when I became vice president of the Memphis Rebounders. Just gonna put
Yep.
that out there. I talk about that all the time. Anyway, okay.
Oh,
But so obviously you had a great relationship with Tony Matlock, who
mhm.
I actually met. I had grad classes with him when he was going to graduate school. That's how I met him. And gosh, haven't talked to him since graduate school. He was trying to do school, and I think he was coaching at I
Melrose
forgot
High School.
what now.
Was he coaching at Melrose High School?
Yes, I think so. Whatever, because he was missing classes.
Yep.
So you decide to leave Memphis and go to South Carolina State
Yep.
with Tony.
Correct.
What was that? Because you go from a staff position to an assistant coach position, correct?
Correct.
What
Yep.
was that like in your career? Like, how did you feel about that? Was it harder to go into an assistant coach position? Did you feel more pressure? And South Carolina State is in what city?
That's in Orangeburg, so nowhere in the middle of nowhere.
I know,
Nowhere.
exactly. I talked to I interviewed all of the Memphis women's basketball staff. Okay. And they were talking about going to Garner Webb, who I had never heard of until they became the staff at Memphis. Okay. And
Yep.
they're like, the culture shock, like there's nothing there. So Orangeburg, South Carolina is basically the same way.
Correct.
Was that hard?
Uh,
Well, you'd already been Chatham, Virginia is pretty small too.
yeah, it's in the middle, same
Ye-
thing, middle of nowhere. Like it's
Middle of
nowhere.
nowhere.
Yeah, yeah,
So
middle.
so you were like, I got this.
Yeah. And then to be honest with you, to transition, it was a little bit easier because um I didn't have so much to do. So when people understand when you're in that grad position, you're juggling a lot of stuff now.
Yes, you
You
are.
you you
Any and everything is put on
any
you.
and everything. So
Yes.
on top of your schoolwork,
Hmm.
on top of your schoolwork, but everything from where it's making sure the guys getting in the classroom, getting meal stuff done, making phone calls, reservations, travel plans, uniforms, everything goes. Make sure
Everything.
the gym is ready. So you got your hands in multiple areas, and you got to make sure you're on point because at the end of the day, you want everything to be as smooth as possible for the head coach. So
Sure.
you don't Coach Holloway coming there, man. Why is this not done? Why is this not done? Why is this not out there? That's the last thing I want to hear is why something's not done or
Right.
why. So I was always big on don't be a why. Don't be a why. Don't be a why. You ain't doing your job.
Right.
You ain't doing your job. So transitioning now, I don't have so much stuff on my plate, but I have a bigger role. So I have to make sure that guys are on time for practice and wherever the case may be, whether in the classroom, player development, recruiting, making sure Coach Madlocks, he has all his things for travel, all that. But since I did so much in those 2 years, it prepared me and helped me for where I'm at now because it's a little bit, I have not as much work, but I just have a bigger role, if that makes sense. So
Sure
it's
it
a
does.
bigger role, but less work.
It's more
So
focused.
more
It's more
focused. Yeah,
focused.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm more focused on the guys and make sure they're doing what they're supposed to do and getting those guys prepared to be young men in life. And so
Right.
it's not, it wasn't that hard of a jump for me
Sure.
forward
Do
after I
you
left.
do you miss playing competitively?
I do sometimes, and I still play. So all the intramurals and all that stuff, I still play with the college kids. They think
Is it hard? Is it hard to let go of that competitiveness?
it is. It is. Unfortunately, it is. It's just like I said, you've been doing it since you was a kid.
Sure,
Yeah, and
exactly. It's
so it's hard.
ingrained in you.
Yeah, it's in you. Just do it. Like I don't want to lose. I don't care if we're playing marbles. I don't care if we're playing Uno. I'm gonna win. You know.
Which, that's the big thing about Michael Jordan. They talk about how competitive he is on everything in his life.
Yep.
And yeah, I would think that it's really hard. Has your transition from being a competitive player to the real world, has it been hard?
Um, it, it has its moments, right?
Sure.
Because like I said, you're learning. You're learning
Mhm.
through the experience, and so like no one's here to hold my hand right now. So
Right.
whatever happens, it's on me. You do
Sure.
something, I'm going to do it's on me. So you just find a way to learn, and when you learn, you just find out what not to do. And so, and now I'm 32 in this adulting world. It's a little bit. It's not as stressful as some of my colleagues and guys that are my age that have kids and are married. Fortunately, I don't have neither of those. So
Right.
my life is a little bit different for me. So I can spend a little bit more time with the guys and my learns it's not as hard. It doesn't take a biggest hit for me as those that have kids and
Yeah.
they have so much other stuff they have to juggle and make sure
Yeah.
that those things are met and stuff. So I don't have that big of worries of issues and stuff like that.
The interview with Russell Copeland and also Doc Holliday, they talked about when their career ended, um, they had a wife and kids, both of them, and they didn't have time to feel sorry for themselves or anything
Uh-huh.
like that. They had to figure out how to make a living.
Yep.
And there are so many, everybody's story is different, and I find these stories fascinating. I just really do. And um so now you're at South Carolina, no, I'm sorry, you're at Alabama State,
Mhm.
again with Tony. You
Yep.
followed him there. Was that a hard decision to make?
No, not at
No.
all. Like,
I'll pack up the car, I'll be there
yeah.
before you are.
he's like that too. It's so funny. I remember he calling us. He said, "Yeah, we out." I said,
Yeah.
"Yeah, we out." I'm like, he said, "Yep." She said, "Start packing it up." I'm like, "All right, here we go. Here
It
we go."
was funny. Josh Cooperwood is on the Memphis staff. He's from he has ties to Memphis, and he said when Coach Alex said, we're going to Memphis, he was packed in the car and got here before her. Like he
Yeah,
was like in the on the road. He wanted out of the town that Gardner Webb was in.
that's so funny.
Um, so you guys are playing. You said your next game is Wednesday night against LSU.
Correct.
Um, and I was at the game when Memphis played Alabama State. You guys have got some tough kids. Well, obviously Tony's son, TJ, but yeah, I remember after the game I was like, Alabama State played like this was a national championship. Like
Yep.
like the kid, like the boys were just going hard. I mean,
Yep.
that's the one thing I noticed, just going hard.
Thank you. Thank
Um,
you.
and it has to be, not only an experience for them all to come into FedEx Forum and play, but also, they have pride and want to establish themselves as well.
Right.
And we really like, I personally like having the games where um, former Tigers come back as coaches. I really do. I feel a pride in seeing Andre Turner out there and
Mhm.
seeing, Tony Matlock out there. I just really love that. And very excited about you guys for this season. And I will say the more people I know that now are on other schools coaching staff, the more I watch the other schools like Rodney. Um, um, I just lost my train of thought. Austin P. Oh, he's going to kill me for this.
Rodney Hamilton.
Yes. Oh my God. He's going to kill me for this. He is going to kill me for this. But like I pay attention to Austin P now, things like that. So I never would have done that. But thank you guys. Thank you so much for being on the show. Um, oh, I did forget to ask this. What would you tell an 8-year-old yourself? Like, what would you go back and tell an 8-year-old?
Um, I'll tell them be patient and ask more questions and don't be so hard on yourself. Don't be
Ask
so
more
hard on yourself.
ask more questions. Do you feel like you didn't ask enough questions about something or things in life?
Yep, I did. I kind of just, like I said, I struggle early on with just speaking and reading. So I didn't like to talk a lot. And I didn't like to ask a lot of questions because I thought maybe it was a dumb or maybe it was a stupid
Oh,
question.
yeah.
So I just kind of just used to sit back and just say, just say it in my head or just wonder what the answer or what I wonder what they might have said to it or whatnot. And the older I got, I wish I would have asked more questions because me asking those questions could have helped me
Sure.
down a little bit more down the line and could have helped me not make some mistakes, by me just
Right.
asking questions and being more aware. So definitely that and just be patient and just yeah, don't get so down on yourself. I mean, I used to get down on myself about academic stuff, basketball, you know, just took it just way, way, way too serious than what it was and just kind of just enjoy the moment.
Exactly. And I think a lot of kids and adults, they don't want to ask questions because they think it's a dumb question. And to me, there is no dumb question.
Right.
And what I found is a lot of times the questions that are asked, other people want to know the answers as well.
Yep.
And I would think, especially from kids, that kind of mindset in there as well. But as we come to the end of this episode of the Fifth Quarter Podcast, we want to remind everyone that I'm reading the wrong part. No, I'm not. That we have new episodes dropping every week. And if you love the show, please give us a follow on Apple, Spotify, Audible, and subscribe on our YouTube channel. If you're feeling extra happy, I have no shame. We'd love a 5-star review on Apple, Spotify, and even Audible. We love hearing the feedback from everybody. Madregas, thank you so much for being on here today. We appreciate it.
No, thank you. I appreciate you for having me on today. Thank you for the opportunity and just allow me to use your platform to hopefully help someone out there that was listening today. And
Exactly.
thank you again for just having me on. I hope y'all continue to do well. I'll be following as well. I know y'all do a great job. So again, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Well, I'm going to be putting in a request to have Tony on the show. So
Yep.
hopefully I'll have a little input with you pushing for us.
Oh,
As we wind this episode down, remember to connect with us on social media at 5THQRT Podcast. You can find me hanging out on Instagram at official Sandy Adams. And you can also, I'll pop your social media into our show notes as well. Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Fifth Quarter Podcast with our guest, Mardrakus Wade. Until next time, remember, change is our ally and it paves the way for greatness. Stay inspired. Have a great rest of the week.